You have one new message. Translating. Disney and Pixar's Hoppers is now available on Disney+.
You could say that again.
Critics are calling it Pixar's funniest movie ever and a wildly entertaining ride. Blizzard Potato. It's certified fresh and verified hot.
Now we party.
This is incredible!
Wow, I am clearing the rest of the day.
Disney and Pixar's Hoppers, now available on Disney+. Rated PG.
Study and play come together on a Windows 11 PC. And for a limited time, college students get the best of both worlds. Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
That existed before the flood. And they teach us how to establish agriculture to become civilized again. So the Vedas are telling us very clearly that our civilization is a legacy of an earlier civilization that was destroyed by a flood. So naturally, I needed to focus on India a lot, and I was able to conduct diving expeditions off the northwest coast of India and off the southeast coast of India. And in all circumstances, as I report in the book, major underwater ruins, which previously had not been suspected, have been found. Now, the point you kicked this off with was the so-called bridge that satellite photos show in southeast India, extending to the east of a place called Ramakwaram, and across to the island of Sri Lanka. Now, what's interesting about this satellite photography is that it simply focuses on an area that we know for certain was completely dry land at the end of the ice age. The island of Sri Lanka was not an island. It was joined to the mainland until as recently as 12,000 years ago. The whole of the Maldives archipelago, the wonderful Maldives Islands that lie to the south of India, which are now just tiny dots on the map, at that time, during the ice age, were enormous islands that extended in a chain for almost 1,000 miles running across the equator. That off both the southeast and the southwest coast of India, there were huge amounts of extra land that are now under the sea. And in this area, we find a legend that speaks of a lost land called Kumari Kandam. This is the name given to the land in Tamil myth. And we hear how a great civilization grew up there, how it established an academy for the preservation of human knowledge and of literature, and how it was destroyed in a terrible flood 11,600 years ago. That's the Saint myth from its emergence from Atlantis, and it's a date that fits perfectly with what modern science tells us about the end of the Ice Age, because this was the second of three great meltwater pulses that raised sea levels in huge steps that happened around 11,600 years ago. So everything comes together. See, this is an issue that geologists are presently in a state of some turmoil about, and I try to go into this in some depth in the book, and it's important to understand it. Everybody accepts that the sea level rose, and everybody accepts that it rose in three major steps. This is something that scientists don't argue about anymore. What they do argue about is how rapidly within those steps did it rise, and the most convincing evidence suggests that we may be looking at literally overnight rises of up to 30 or 40 feet.
Wow.
Which would have a shattering effect on any coastal civilization.
I just say.
One can imagine what even a 20-foot rise in sea level would do to our civilization today.
Absolutely correct.
We have huge cities inland, but the bulk of our economies and the bulk of our population is still focused on the coast. And a 20-foot rise in sea level would take out all the world's major harbor cities, including Tokyo, New York, San Francisco. The whole area would be completely devastated, and I'm not sure our society would divide it. So we're looking at something like that happening 11,500 years ago in a world where the high culture lived on the coast. The people who were top of the food chain lived on the coast.
Sure.
The people who we think of as Stone Age man were marginal people driven into the interior. And we are reconstructing our prehistory based on archaeology that has only been done in the interior. And that's why we're missing important evidence about another aspect of our prehistory, a much more advanced aspect that occurred on the coast. India is a place in which this really is very strongly supported at every level. And what's wonderful about India is that it's an ancient culture which is still alive. India is still in touch with its ancient roots. You go to Egypt or to ancient Sumer in Mesopotamia, you're dealing with a culture that's been dead for thousands of years. And yes, its ruins speak. Yes, its inscriptions have much color. But the culture is not alive. In India, you can actually touch it and see it and sense this memory of the past to account for a virtually overnight 20 to 25 foot rise in sea level. It could happen. It's not of the scale that happened at the end of the Ice Age when there was a 400-foot rise. This is the really intriguing problem, and it's a problem that I have dealt with from time to time in my books over the last 10 years. But I can't say that it's fully settled yet. I mean, in a sense, the one thing that we can be comfortable with is the universally accepted fact that sea level did rise by 400 feet, and that this was accompanied by enormous cataclysms, earthquakes, volcanic eruption. It was accompanied by huge extinctions of animal species. Up to 70% of all the main species existing on Earth during the Ice Age were made extinct at the end of the Ice Age. So it's pretty obvious that something terrible happened, but what caused it to happen is still a matter of some debate. One theory which I picked up and investigated at some length in Fingerprints of the Gods is called Earth crust displacement, where it suggested that the entire outer crust of the Earth could shift in one piece around the core of the Earth, taking land that was in warm areas, warm latitudes, into much colder latitudes, and vice versa. That this would, by shifting the ice-covered land into warmer equatorial latitudes, such an event would lead to the meltdown, or what appeared to be the meltdown of the Ice Age. That's one explanation. This is the argument, and the best work on this has been done by a gentleman called Ram Flemmer. He has followed up the work of Charles Hapgood from the 60s in this sphere, and offered one compelling explanation for why the Ice Age came to an end, because that's the real mystery. The Ice Age was a relatively stable period. We had 100,000 years when the ice sheets were just continuing to grow from, say, 120,000 years ago down to about 20,000 years ago. And then suddenly, this huge expansion of the ice sheet stops, and it goes into reverse in the most cataclysmic way, and then for the next is true, literally hell. 10,000 years of hell. And it's in that mysterious period that I think we lost our memory. Yeah, I mean, this is obviously one of the best ways to explain the truly cataclysmic nature of the event that occurred at the end of the Ice Age. Indeed, the recognition that the end of the Ice Age was a cataclysmic time is still in the process of dawning on scientists around the world. It's because as more and more research is done, it's becoming more and more clear that that particular 10,000-year period between roughly 17,000 and 7,000 years ago was a period of horrendous catastrophe. Should have been raising alarm bells a long time ago. Again, what happens with finds like that is that the scientific community turns on them and tries to find every way to minimize their impact and their implications, to suggest that this was mammoths that were killed at widely different periods and so on. But again, if you just come back to the basic thing that the scientists do accept, which is a 70% extinction of animal species at the end of the Ice Age and more than 10 million square miles of land covered by water, you realize that you are talking about a cataclysm. And then you have to ask yourself, what is the normal state of our Earth? What is the stable state of our Earth? And frankly, the stable state of our Earth seems to be not how it is now. It seems to be indeed locked in an Ice Age. But we've had many Ice Ages in the past, long periods when the Earth was just literally frozen solid. But every now and then something comes along and interrupts it. That's the other issue. I mean, what we're looking for is the trigger factor, which causes these stable ice sheets to melt down, and which then radically changes the appearance of the world. And there's no doubt that the two strongest suggestions are a displacement of the crust of the Earth, of the mantle of the Earth, if you will, or an asteroid strike or a comet strike. And again, it's becoming obvious that there have been more and more of these events with the whole argument over our past and whether there could have been lost civilizations, which is that scientists claim to have a full knowledge of everything that concerns us, often on the basis of only very partial and limited information. And, what's needed on the part of science is a recognition that new information can come along any day, which will completely change the picture of our history. And what's becoming clear now, whatever the cause, is that cataclysms have played a much bigger role in human history than we have allowed for in our understanding of the past. But we are, in a sense, perhaps our evolution and development as a species is driven by cataclysms. Perhaps cataclysms play a crucial role for us, not something that we should simply turn our back on and ignore,
Right.
But something that we should study and try to understand what it is about cataclysms that seems to lead to jumps forward. It makes people think again and to reconsider what they're doing and how perhaps to do it better in the future. I mean, it's odd that in this enormous quantity of myths and traditions from around the world that speak of the destruction of a former civilization, virtually every one of these ancient traditions associates it in some way with the behavior of that civilization. It isn't just a blind environmental accident. It's also, we have done something. This is how it's always portrayed in the traditions, whether it's the story of Noah, the story of Atlantis, so many of the flood myths from around the world. We have done something. The human race has done something. We've reached too high. We've aspired to become God, and this leads to a punishment being unleashed upon us. This is too widespread a tradition to be completely ignored, I believe.
This episode is brought to you by Google Chrome. You think you know a browser, but Gemini and Chrome? That's new. It can help you with practically anything on the web, like restoring a vintage motorcycle from a 50-page restoration blog, or finally break down that long article you've had open for weeks. Gemini and Chrome is here for it. Ready to make anything online make sense? There's no place like Chrome. Check responses, setup required, compatibility and availability varies, 18+.
You can't reason with the sun. Trust us, we've tried. This summer, it's time to put that angry ball of fire on mute. Columbia's OmniShade technology is engineered to protect you from the sun's harsh rays that can burn and damage your skin. The sun is relentless, but so is our gear. Level up your summer at Columbia.com to spend more time outside and less time slathering on aloe lotion. You're welcome. Columbia, engineered for whatever.